from International MMA Channel, breaking down UFC 171, which premieres on March 15th, and it's going to be at Dallas, Texas. We're going to go ahead with one of the prelims on Fox Sports 1, and that is going to be Kelvin Gastelum versus Rick Story. Kelvin Gastelum is 8-0, and Rick Story is 16-7. They're going to begin the last event before the pay-per-view. This is the last event on the Fox Sports 1. This one's going to be a good one for Kelvin Gastelum, who was the Ultimate Fighter 17 winner. This one I'm going to have to give it to Kelvin Gastelum. Rick Story is one of these notorious 170s. He's very dangerous, but I think Kelvin Gastelum, showing what he had in the Ultimate Fighter 17, as well as the last fight he had, and even beating Uriah Hall, I think there is some momentum with him. So it's all for Kelvin Gastelum for that prediction. Then we go straight into the pay-per-view event, which starts at 7 p.m. First fight is going to be Vince St. Preux versus Nikita Krylov. Vince is 14-5. Nikita is 16-3. This one's kind of a tough one. I don't know too much about each fighter. I do know that Nikita's coming out of Ukraine. There's probably a lot of issues going on right now with the currency, with Russia and everything else. I'm going to have to give it to Vince on this one, of a mentality of what he's probably going through. I think more mentally, Vince will be ready for this fight. The next event is one of my favorite fights and probably predictions of fight of the night. It's going to be Jake Shields, who's 29-6, against Hector Lombard, who's 33-4. Hector Lombard was having trouble when he went into the middleweight division through Dana White asking him to go down to the 170. He has been on a tear. He had a recent win. On this one, I'm going to have to give it to Hector Lombard. Jake Shields has showed difficulties with Rick Story, who knocked him out. So I think if Hector Lombard can go ahead and get Jake Shields before the clinch, I think it's going to be all Hector Lombard's fight. Jake Shields is a very dangerous opponent, though. He Damian Maia the last time. So this is going to be one great one. Watch out for fight of the night on this one. The next one is Miles Jury versus Diego Sanchez, or The Dream. Miles Jury is 13-0. Diego Sanchez is 16-6. We saw the great slug out that he had with Gilbert Melendez the last time he came out. Miles Jury is on a tear as well with consistent wins. On this one, I'm going to have to go with The Dream. I'm going to have to give it to Diego Sanchez. He looks like he's trying to do something and trying to come back with momentum back in the 155 division. The next one is the co-main event. My truth, I think Carlos Condit should have been there before Robbie Lawler, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about that later. This is going to be Carlos Condit, 29-7 versus Tyrone Woodley, 12-2. Tyrone Woodley, who is notorious for knowing to take out Jake Shields, and the last time was also with Nate Marquardt. He had losses. Carlos Condit's coming off back-to-back losses against Johnny Hendricks and against GSP. This one, Carlos Condit is the true ranked number 2, and I believe Tyrone Woodley's ranked number 12. This is an interesting matchup. Both of them are very good sluggers, and they like to bang it out. Carlos Condit is a lot more of a technical guy, and he waits, and he lures opponents in, and then that's when he goes with either a submission or he'll go out for the knockout. For this one, of course, I'm going to go with Carlos Condit. The main event, Johnny Hendricks, 15-2, versus Robbie, the Ruthless One Lawler, 22-9. Robbie came off of recent wins against Josh Koscheck and against Rory McDonald, which he was ferocious in the Rory McDonald winning by unanimous decision. I gave Rory the second round on that one, but I gave 1-2 to Robbie Lawler, which shows some great determination in trying to take out Rory McDonald. Johnny Hendricks came off of a tough fight with GSP, which he lost, but in everybody's eyes, including mine, I saw him come out as the victor on that fight. Why are we not talking about GSP? And if you don't know, then where the hell have you been? GSP has decided to go ahead and go out and step out of and vacate the belt, and this is why it's leaving it open for this 170 belt, the welterweight one. Johnny Hendricks is an explosive fighter, likes to do the knockout. He wasn't really known for his knockout. he was known more for his grappling and takedowns, for his wrestling. But then later on found out once with those hits and how he throws it, he can go out for devastating knockouts and has now gone into being one of the greatest knockout artists in the 171. Robbie Lawler, on the other hand, has been in the UFC for years, and he was the young one coming out of that time when Rory McDonald was known as like the protege. There was Robbie Lawler before that, way back in the UFC days. He decided to step away, went into Strikeforce, went in the 185, didn't do as well, came back to the 170, is on a tear, and you know what, I do talk about Carlos Condit deserving this one, but it's going to be a great fight with Robbie Lawler. This one's a tough one. Really had to think about. Johnny Hendricks beat GSP the last time, and would Robbie Lawler beat GSP if he fought? Robbie Lawler is one of these guys, and there is a lot of rumors about him coming out of Joe Rogan's podcast and everything else, where Robbie Lawler does not take any punishment during training. He refuses to box and do any damage to himself and those things. I think that is one great advantage that Robbie Lawler has, is that he goes in a fight with zero head trauma or head damage from doing any kind of physical contact with boxing. Because Robbie Lawler said he's already a boxer and he knows what he's going to do. Johnny Hendricks is one of these explosive people that like to take you down and at the same time looking to sink in an uppercut, taking you down and trying to knock you out. For this one, I'm going to have to go, just out of luck and out of respect, I'm going to have to give it to Robbie Lawler. I think Robbie Lawler has been coming out in a tear, and I think he's in a tremendous thing. And the whole thing, too, is when they talked to Robbie Lawler about fighting Johnny Hendricks, he wasn't excited. He said, cool, let's go ahead and do this. So he has a very different composure, and he doesn't have that whole anticipation of wanting to win the fight. All he's going to go out there is to fight and defend and win. With a lot of Johnny Hendricks wants to be a champion, is determined to be a champion, and he has a lot more to lose trying to fight as a champion, where Robbie Lawler is just going to go out and give an entertaining fight and try to go for a W, and he's just going to go out to fight. So I think mentally and condition-wise, I think Robbie Lawler has a greater advantage than Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks, though, if he lays one on you, you're out. Robbie Lawler, too. If he lays out a good one on you, you're out. Robbie Lawler is known for his great boxing, and I think this is going to be just to take a great stand-up fight. Unless Johnny Hendricks knows what he's getting himself into and tries to take it down to the ground with Robbie Lawler. This is Hector from International MMA Channel. Enjoy the fights. Good night. Good fights.